ويريكم آياته فأي آيات الله تنكرون
Centuries ago, people used to believe that the earth is flat, but the advances in science and technology rejected this idea. However, the flat earth theory nowadays became again so popular that millions of people are trying to learn this theory. But is the earth really flat? For this, firstly we need to know how a flat earth model really looks like. The flat earth community believes that the earth is like a disk over which the sun and the moon are rotating. And they think that the sun and the moon are both smaller objects which are rotating above this giant disk. But this theory has lots of gaps in it, and its followers are propagating some misconceptions for supporting their theory. The flat earthers are claiming that everything we see on the internet is just CGI, or a computer-generated imagery of the earth, and NASA is lying about the shape of the earth. We believe that the most of the images or videos of the earth which are on the internet are just CGI, but they were not distributed to pretend that they are real. We also believe that the most of the information that the NASA is giving to us are not true. But we should consider that NASA doesn't say lies in all cases, cause if they do so, they wouldn't be trusted at all. They also claim that the logo of the United Nations is showing the flat earth, meaning that the earth has a flat shape. But this is again a false claim, because the logo is designed in this manner to show all those countries which are members of the UN, and it's impossible to show the whole map in a three-dimensional model of the earth. So the possible ways of presenting the whole map of the earth is either in a rectangular shape or a circular one, which both of them are flat, but it doesn't mean that the earth is flat. Another claim they make is that they can detect the curvature of the earth from far distances. But these distances from which they observe the curvature of the earth is not enough for our eyesight to detect the curvature, because the circumference of the earth is 40,075 kilometers, and in distance of 111.3 kilometers it will have 1 degree curvature, which is negligible for our eyesight. The flat earth model has no logical description for the lunar eclipse, because in this model these three objects, meaning the sun, the moon and the earth, wouldn't be placed in a straight line. That's because the sun and the moon are in the same circular path. But in a spherical model of the earth, this is absolutely possible, because in this model they can be arranged in a perfectly straight line. And whenever the moon comes in between the sun and the earth, its shadow would be casted in some regions of the earth, and in those regions we can see the solar eclipse. And whenever the earth comes in between the sun and the moon, its shadow will be casted on the moon, and it's called lunar eclipse, which will be visible from some specific regions of the earth.
If you send a ship straight to the horizon, eventually it begins to disappear until it's no longer visible beyond your horizon. And you should ask yourself, what kind of surface would produce that result?
The flat earthers always showing videos zooming on the horizon where suddenly some objects are appearing. With this, they claim that there is no curvature on Earth. Otherwise, those objects would disappear from bottom to top as they get further away. But this claim is again wrong, because in their examples, the objects are not beyond the horizon, rather nearer to us. That's why we see them while zooming on them. In a flat Earth model, the Sun and the Moon are traveling along a circular path, which causes changing in night and day in different regions of the Earth with respect to their movement. But while the Sun and the Moon are moving from region A to B, for the people of region A, it should appear that the Sun or the Moon becomes smaller and smaller until it disappears. And for the people of region B, it should get bigger and bigger as it comes nearer. How is it possible that the other objects get smaller while moving away, but not the Sun and the Moon? And why instead of getting smaller, they disappear partially?
فاسكب ضياءك إني ظمآن ضل صدايا لم أدر من أي نبع أسقي جنين الركايا والشط لا ما فيه يطفي اللظى في حشايا رحمك يا رب إني وزورقي والخطايا في لجة ليس فيها من الضياء بقايا جفت وغاضت ولكن ما زلت أسجي رجايا
Normally, in a spherical model of the Earth, the objects fall towards the center of the Earth due to the gravitational force. But if we apply the rules of gravity on a flat Earth model, then the trajectory of falling object would become increasingly tilted inwards in the southern latitude. For example, if we keep traveling to the edge of the Earth. Therefore, the flat earthers deny the existence of gravity and attribute the falling into some other causes, like density. But if you remember, the density is the amount of mass within a volume, and it is not even a force to cause acceleration in order to push you down. But even if we accept that the acceleration towards the ground is a function of density, it's again at odds with empirical evidences. Because if you consider a feather and a bowling ball falling in a vacuum, they would both reach to the earth at the same time. It means without air resistance, everything experiences the same acceleration when it falls. Now, if falling is due to density, why the objects with different density wouldn't reach to the ground at different times? And why everything falls only in one direction?
به بدأت ولكن لم أدر ما منتهايا لم أدر يأسي فيه ولا عرفت هدايا ولا عرفت ظلامي ولا عرفت ضحايا ولا لغيرك دوايا رب يوم الندايا
Some people are claiming that the flat earth theory is supported by some verses in the Quran. We should know that those verses which contain the words like firashan, sutihat, bisatan, dahaha and so on, all of them have the meaning of spreading out and smoothing out. But none of them means that the earth is flat if you see the context of those verses, because these words can be used for both a flat and a spherical object. For example, this ball has a smooth surface or a spread surface. The other one has a rough surface. So it means we can use the word smooth for spherical objects too. Among those verses, the one which is mostly used as a proof for the flat earth theory is the verse which says الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ فِرَاشًا. In this verse, the flat earthers claim that the word firashan, which means carpet, is pointing to the flat model of the earth. But the key word in this verse is lakum, which means for you. So if we consider this word, then we can get a clear understanding of the verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "We have made the earth for you as a carpet." because in comparison to the earth, we are so tiny that our surrounding area is spread like a carpet for us. That's why we feel it as a flat surface.
Small sections of large curved surfaces will always look flat to little creatures that crawl upon it.
And since we are so tiny, we cannot even feel the motion of the earth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points to this fact in another verse.
وَتَرَى الْجِبَالَ تَحْسَبُهَا جَامِدَةً وَهِيَ تَمُرُّ مَرَّ السَّحَابِ صُنْعَ اللَّهِ الَّذِي أَتْقَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ إِنَّهُ خَبِيرٌ بِمَا تَفْعَلُونَ.
In the mentioning verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the fact that the mountains are moving the same as the clouds do, but you feel them to be solid. There is no possibility for movement of the mountains in a flat earth model. Because in a flat earth theory, the earth is a stationary object. But if you now consider the movement of the mountains in a spherical model of the earth, they are moving due to the spinning of the earth, which is exactly similar to the spinning of the clouds caused by the atmosphere layer. So it means the earth is a rotating globe, but in our scale it looks like a solid stationary carpet. Another verse which refers to the spherical model of the earth is
وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا.
The word daha, which is translated as spread out, comes from the root dahu, which means to spread out or to smooth out. It's used to describe actions for setting out and adjusting something spherically. The meaning of roundness is also derived from the word dahu. For example, the word dahu is used to describe children dropping or rolling a ball or a walnut into a hole on the ground. So in this verse, the word dahaha is a very technical word which refers to spreading out the earth by rolling or rotating it. Now what science tells us about the formation of the earth is that the earth was not smoothly round or even spread out. Rather, it was like a rough object which became round due to its rotational motion. It is also important to be noticed that the flat earth model is a stationary closed system which rejects the existence of space. However, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ.
In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the expansion of the universe, which confirms the existence of space unlike the flat earth theory. Also in another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ.
In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us about another recent discovery, that the sun and the entire solar system is moving towards an unknown direction, which is impossible in a stationary closed system.
The moon and the sun and the earth and everything that Allah created and describes them in detail and tells us that the earth is doing what? Kawi. Turning. The same thing like when you'd make a turban, kawi. Turning. The earth is turning, and nobody believed that back then because you don't feel the earth turning, do you? So we assumed that the earth was the center of the universe and that the sun was going around us, what we thought. But it mentions that even the sun is in orbit. The earth is in orbit. How could the sun be in an orbit? But guess what we found out? It's in an orbit. The sun has an orbit. It's not being still. And the moon is going, the earth is going around the sun the same way the moon is going around the earth. All of it's moving. Swimming. And Allah uses this. Swimming. Who is telling us this? The Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of the worlds.
From the mentioning explanations, it's understood that the Quran is informing us about the roundness of the earth. However, these verses do not explicitly describe it, but only gave us some indications, so that the people of centuries ago who couldn't understand the roundness of the earth would not suspect about the words of Quran and oppose it. In fact, the information provided by the Quran about the shape, motion and formation of the earth is a clear evidence for the divinity of this book and the existence of a wise creator.
He is a Rahman.